Somebody recently asked me, how do you handle hunger in prison? And it got me to thinking, that's a really good question. And I remember when I was a kid, me and my brother, when we were hungry, we used to tell my parents, I'm starving, I'm so hungry, I'm really, really hungry. And I remember my dad used to tell me and my brother, he said, well, eat one hand and save the other one for tomorrow. And me and my brother was like, oh, I can't eat my hand. And I remember one day, I was like, can I eat my hand? As a kid, because my dad said eat one hand and save the other one for tomorrow. And I remember gnawing all over my hand, and I couldn't quite grasp it and chew it. Plus it hurt the more I bit. And I said, Dad, well, you can't eat your hand. He said, I know. He said, I'm just teaching you a lesson. You ain't hungry enough if you ain't willing to eat your own hand. And I thought about it. I said, I guess I can wait till it's time to eat. He said, exactly. We're going to eat later on, but you ain't starving. And so then I began to grasp what starving was. And so when somebody asked me, how do you handle hunger when you're in prison? I thought I can give you a couple answers to that question. And the first one was that if you're hungry in prison, you don't get to do nothing except wait until the state says it's time to eat. And when that happens, you have one or two choices. You get your tray or you get served your tray, depending on where you're doing your time at. If you're in the hole of the dungeon, they're going to bring the tray to you. And they might open up your cell or slide it underneath the bars and you just get it however you get it. And you're going to eat whatever's in that tray. Or you go to the chow hall, you wait in line, you get your tray, you sit down and eat. Now, sometimes in prison, there's a reality check when you first get there. And you got your state tray and you walk in like this and you sit down and you look what's in that tray. And it might be a little bit of rice with some kind of beans that you're really not certain what they are. And there might be some mystery meat and a piece of bread. And that's it. And you're going to eat that food if you're hungry. Now, let me tell you something. I saw dudes maybe eat a couple bites of the bread and throw the rest away. Boom, boom, boom. In prison, when the food's really terrible and you got to, because in the chow hall, you got to go back and dump your tray out or hand your tray to the orderlies who are working in the kitchen and they washing it, with the big washer, the pressure washer, they're cleaning them trays. And you got to dump your tray out first. And if you look in the trash can, where the trays are or where the kitchen workers put the trays, usually it's a big bag full of food. Now, let me tell you something they do in prison with that leftover food, because a lot of dudes won't eat that food because it's so nasty. The prison uses that slop and they sell that for the hogs. That's right, the hogs. The same hogs that you might eat later or the hogs that the state of Louisiana is selling. They're eating the leftover food that the inmates didn't want to eat. Spit out food, just nasty food that nobody wants to eat. See, the state's smart. The state's saving money. In the state of Louisiana, they don't play them games. If you're not going to eat it, they know it's fine because they can tell you and they can tell the general public and the probation, parole, safety, whatever goes in the Department of Corrections can tell everybody, any government watchdog and entities, hey, look, we fed them. They didn't need it. We know they wasn't going to eat this slop anyway, but we're not going to tell y'all that. But we can use the same slop that they didn't need to feed the hogs. That's right. And so they feed them hogs so they don't have to pay money to feed the hogs because the inmates won't eat the money. But the hogs, they don't care. They're going to eat. But let me tell you something. I met some dudes in prison who were so hungry and so desperate, and they came from such a rough life. Imagine being homeless for 10 years or a decade, and you finally get arrested and you get sent to prison for 2 years, and you didn't know where your last meal was coming from on the street. You were literally eating out of trash cans. Do you think when you see a state tray, you're going to think that's nasty? Nah, that's gourmet. You get a Michelin star for that. You eating that food, you're like, dang, this is a Michelin star right here. This is the best tray I ever had. You don't even know what it is. VitaPro. Yeah, look up VitaPro. So you eating that VitaPro and you knocking it down. So that's one way that you can't go hungry in prison is if you eat the state tray. Now, every once in a while, the state gives you a good tray. And that tray might be on chicken day. Every once a month, they had chicken day. And when they had fried chicken day, man, dudes will shank you behind that fried chicken. And then dudes who were addicted to narcotics or, you know what I mean? Just draw it up, put it on, pass out. Dudes who were doing that, they'll sell that fried chicken so they can get their fix. You know what I mean? You know who they were. They want caffeine and dope. So they'll sell that fried chicken. And the kitchen workers were slanging fried chicken too. So, if you're a hustler or you're a head buster, you can get you an extra piece of fried chicken or you can get a couple of extra pieces of fried chicken. I know a dude, he sold his chicken skins just to get nicotine. That's right. So, but some people don't eat them state trays. Not everybody likes them state trays. You know what I mean? So if you get desperate and you're hungry enough, you're going to eat the state tray. If you're dumping your food out in the trash can for the hogs to eat, then you ain't hungry enough. You ain't hungry, right? So you waiting for breakfast. I used to like the SOS. That's called, S on a shingle. That was one of my favorite meals. When I saw it in the morning and the dude next to me didn't want it, man, give me that there. I'd scoop my tray. I love sausage, whatever, mystery meat on a piece of biscuit. I eat that up, But some dudes didn't. A lot of dudes didn't like it. Oh, man, we got SOS today. Man, dump that out. But I love SOS. Another thing that you can do is 2 for 1. That's something, if you really hungry, because dudes ask, well, what if I'm hungry in the middle of the night or the weekend and it's after the last child? I'm like, if it's, and sometimes the last child, they might give you a bag lunch. That's a bologna sandwich or a peanut butter jelly sandwich with one little slice. Look, they take that knife and just, and that's it. Mostly bread. It's just basically bread with a little scoop of peanut butter in the middle. And you eat that, and that's all you get. Maybe you're lucky you get a banana or an apple that's rotten. You know what I mean? So them dudes who got lockers full of Canteen, that's how you survive. You survive on your Canteen. So if you ain't got no family member sending you no money to get Canteen, or you ain't got somebody who loves you to send you that, then you need to find a way to hustle. You need to find a way to work. Now, in Louisiana, they pay you like 15 cents an hour, and you can use that 15 cents an hour to get your Canteen. You let that build up and you get your food, you know what I mean? Or you can become an artist and you can sell to get your money. But there's a thing called 2 for 1, and it goes a little something like this. And I want you to sit back and get your mind prepared for something I'm about to hit you with. If you're really hungry in prison, I want you to listen to the words that I'm about to tell you and get them implanted in your head, because you can use these words to teach your children a lesson or teach your coworkers a lesson who always talking about they got to get something to eat and they'll never want to do no work. Here we go. Pull it back. Here's the song that makes a lot of sense when you're hungry in prison. I remember being in a cell block, in the working cell block, and dudes used to be like, man, I'm starving, bro. Dang, man. Man, what time it is? Dude be like, man, it's 7 o'clock and it's a Friday night. Everybody's staying up on the block, watching the TV because they keep it on a little bit longer. And they're like, man, I'm so hungry. And the dude down the thing will be like, you hungry? And they hit him with that song. If your stomach touch your back and you think you need a snack, 2 for 1. If you're hungry and you know it and your stomach's starting to show it, 2 for 1. Sing along with me. If your stomach touch your back and you think you need a snack, 2 for 1. If you're hungry and you know it and your stomach's starting to show it, 2 for 1. That's right. You could pay somebody 2 for 1. They're going to give you 1 honey bun, and on store day, you got to give them 2 honey buns. See, if you're desperate and hungry enough and you know your mama's still sending you money to protect your booty, you can also use that money to get some food, because you wasn't smart on the street, so you're probably not going to be smart in prison, so you got to use the 2 for 1 investment strategy. So those convicts who know what they're doing, they're going to give you honey bun. And if you're really hungry, you're going to be like, say, bro, maybe I can get 3 honey buns. And the dude be like, yeah, I'm going to give you 3 honey buns. That's going to be 6 honey buns back on store day. You good with that? Yeah, I'm good with that. And you don't give that honey bun back, then they're going to find a way to get that honey bun back from you. They got to take it out of you some kind of way. So they want the same honey buns. So they basically want your booty, because your booty's worth more than 6 honey buns. So you got to pay people back. And that's how dudes get caught up in prison, man. You got to be willing to hustle and get your money right, man, so you ain't stuck in prison, right? And if you don't have no family members sending you no money, you could be like the vagabonds, the bums from the street, or them dudes who are savage cavemans and they know how to live, swamp monsters. They call them in prison, cavemans. They can get down in the block, and in the block, they don't have no mattress. They don't never take a mattress. The police try to get them people a mattress. They're like, man, I'm sleeping on the ground. I don't need no mattress. You know what I mean? I'm a savage. And so they get their food in loaves, because they get put on that watch, and they give them a loaf. They take the 3 meals and mix them all together and mash it into a loaf. And do eat that like it ain't nothing. They're like, that's good. Because their mentality is so crazy that they telling the free people, they like, man, I eat them, because the police, the correctional officers sometimes try to use that reverse psychology, like, oh, you ain't gonna eat that. Hey, eat this. You think about getting right. And dude's like, I eat anything. I'm like Rambo. I eat things that make a billy goat puke, man. Give me that loaf. No utensils, man. Got loaf all over. You know what I mean? Mystery meat, gravy, beans, you know what I mean? Picked straight from the field, So that's one thing that can happen. Another thing you could do, man, is straight up starve. That's right. You could starve. You can starve in prison because you just ain't getting nothing to eat. I done seen the COs put dudes in the dungeon and not give them dudes their food as a punishment. Now, they're not supposed to do that, and they're not going to tell you that they doing that. They're going to tell you, oh, yeah, we fed up. We fed them. but they're gonna skip your cell. They're gonna leave you there. You're gonna be starving. You know what I mean? And so you're at the mercy of the police. And if they don't want you to eat, then you won't eat. That's why sometimes you got to get that act right. See, down here in Louisiana, they will play those mental games for you inside the dungeon in the hole. They'll go 3-4 days without feeding your dude. And when the dude does get that tray, you know, with that state food that was picked in the field by his fellow inmates, he gonna eat that food. And sometimes, man, them police will put some stuff in your food, man. They'll put bugs in your food, roaches. Dude get hungry, eat that too, man. And look, we in the United States. There's civil rights here. I done seen some places where they eating roaches because that's all they could do. They take the rice and they put it underneath the mat and they eat the roaches. When the roaches come for the rice and they eat the roaches for protein. You got to be a savage to eat a roach. You know what I mean? That's how they living. You know, so when you get that state tray, you ain't going to complain. You're going to think to yourself, man, this ain't so bad. I ain't got to eat no roach. At least I got beans and mystery meat. You know, I don't know where the meat's coming from. It could be anything. But I'm going to eat this with that cornbread. You know, I ain't going to let nobody take my cornbread. Because if they take my cornbread, they're going to take my booty. And I ain't playing them games today. You know what I mean? And you got your food and you eating your food and you getting your workout on. You know what I mean? You surviving. You know, you ain't taking 2 for 1. Yeah, you ain't doing it. You want me to do it? If your stomach touch your back and you think you need a snack, 2 for 1, don't let your stomach touch your back. Get your mind right. You don't want to be in prison, man. And you don't want to be out in society living like you in prison neither. You know what I mean? I seen dudes do that too, man. You know, they out here trying to sell Snickers bars on the corner. Man, you don't want to be selling those Snickers bars on the corner. You know, selling Reese's cups at your work to your co-workers, thinking you making a come up, man. Come on, man. Be kind, man. Give people a Snickers bar without anything being attached. You don't want to have the Snickers bar underneath the pillow. You know what that means, man. Just give a Snickers bar to your coworker, man. Buy it. You know what? Give me a break, man. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. You get that Snickers bar, you know, because you feeling hungry. Remember the commercials? Show a person looking like a caged lion. They eat the Snickers bar and they calm back down. You give somebody Snickers bar. You ain't in prison no more, man. I'm trying to tell you, man, because somebody wanted to know how to handle hunger in prison. Hunger in prison is real. But in the United States of America, we have civil liberties. And so most of us are eating in prison. You get 3 meals a day. You know the thing, 3 hots in a cot. You get 3 hots in a cot. You're going to get 3 meals a day. You might not like what they feed you, but if you're hungry enough, you're going to eat. You ain't hungry enough until you eat whatever they give you. That's how you know you got hungry. See, you still blessed. Your mama's still sending you $50 on store day. You making $100 on Canteen. You got your wife working double jobs so you can get $100 Canteen. And you want to still live up in the prison acting like an idiot. Man, you better get your mind right. If you're in society, you can be acting just like an idiot from the prisons and never been to prison. You got a stupid mentality too. We got to correct our mentalities, man. You know what I mean? I appreciate it. I'm blessed to be in a nation of plenty. Listen, nowadays when I go to the grocery store, man, I get a dozen items and I know that's about $50, $60, $70 right off the bat. And I'm like, I ain't got nothing, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, I can't get that EBT. They ain't gonna give it to me. You know, I wish I could get it. But I make do with what I got. You know, some days I got to do peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, that's right. I still do peanut butter and jelly. I eat what I can. You know, so when you're in prison, you really got to eat what you can. Man, welcome to the Pen and The Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. Give me a like and a subscribe. Hit that hype button. Share this video, especially with anybody in the crime and prison genre, so they can, you know, get hip to this channel and jump on board in one of the best communities that's growing on YouTube right now. The Pen and The Shank. That's right. You now part of this community. Welcome. We're glad to have you. You know, we do things a little bit different. It's fun, you know, and funny and interesting and entertaining and informative. All of the above. You never know what video we're going to drop. I take comments for videos, recommendations, and I actually follow through with them as best I can. Anyway, man, that's how I answered the question, how to handle hunger in prison, man. I hope you got something out of this video, and I hope you liked it, man. Share in the comments what was your favorite part. Do you like the song about 2 for 1, or do you think it's just stupid? I know, I was in prison. I used to hear that stupid song every time somebody was hungry and somebody was trying to get their hustle on. Anyway, man, let's get this.